Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Food for Life this week. I'm so happy to have you. As always, I'm your host, Ashley Tresleen, the owner of Bella Foodie, and I am so excited to have you every week. This week, we are talking with our guest, Erin Washington. It's a very full circle moment, so if you've been watching us from the beginning, Erin was our first guest that we had terrible technical difficulties with. I didn't even get to hear the first interview I did with Erin. I had to watch it back because we had so many issues. So I'm really excited to welcome her back. I hope everyone is having a good week. We are getting really close to celebrating Easter. If you guys celebrate, we just got finished celebrating St. Patrick's Day. It is a month of celebrations here. So I want to hear from you guys. I want you to make sure that you are following us on our Instagram at Food for Life TV, because that's where we're going to be putting up some extra content and clips from the show, and where you guys can answer some polls about what kind of guests and food I am making. So check that out. And we are going to welcome Erin into our show. Hi, Erin. How are you?
Hi, Ashley. I'm so good. Thank you for having me back.
I appreciate you coming back after the first time. Oh, cringe.
You were my audio.
You got to be my experiment, my first pancake.
It's fine. Audio is very overrated. I think it was fine.
Well, it's still one of my most watched episodes, so I think people were amused by my way I handled it.
They could hear us. You just couldn't hear me.
Yeah.
The episode.
Sure. So Erin, why don't you, for those of our audience members that don't know you, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself and who you are and what you do?
Sure. I am a mom of two, and I basically try to encourage and promote living life to the fullest, finding your purpose, especially to moms who may kind of feel like they're over and, it's just about the kids now. I kind of stepped into purpose after having two kids. I host a show called Therapy with Erin Washington, and I wrote From Pain to Purpose, Finding Meaning in the Mess, that kind of details my struggles with body image, multiple eating disorders, and kind of stepping into a lifestyle of balance. That kind of went into a podcast called Squats and Margaritas. And recently I've had some life pivots and am not drinking as much as I used to. And I wasn't really talking about fitness. So I kind of rebranded, and it also became, as an extension, a nonprofit for teen girls who are struggling with body image and self-worth. So I'm basically empowering all the women to find purpose, to love themselves, to embrace their self-worth. And I feel like that's why I went through all my mess and why I was put on this planet.
I love that. You're empowering people from the youngest to the oldest, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So let's start from the beginning. You wrote a book to talk about your body image struggles. Now, that's a lifelong struggle, right? That's something that you struggle with. What made you want to put that in writing to share it with people?
So I absolutely did not want to put that in writing to share it with people. It was a writing coach that kind of made me do it. I struggled with anorexia, bulimia, exercise bulimia, where you jot down everything that you eat and then you go work off the calories from that. And it was something that I obviously held so much shame about, and I was never going to tell anyone about. When I started living with balance, I didn't work out as much. I was actually eating more. And I'm like, this is the way that actually gave me my physical ideal. So I need to tell all the women that are starving themselves and, doing it the way that we thought we were supposed to do it. And when I went to write that book, my writing coach was kind of like, are you a trainer? Or are you a nutritionist? And I'm like, no, but I figured it out. And she's like, you have zero credibility unless there was a story of how you came to this, life of balance. And Ashley, I was like, absolutely not. I just want to help women. I just want to, share the formula of squats and margaritas. And she pushed me on it. And one day I wrote it, I didn't even send it back to her yet. And I instantly felt lighter. It was like, it was off, it was out. And when I did initially send it back to her, she called me and was like, this is your book. So what it became was what I wanted to say to the woman working out and not seeing results. That's the second part. But the first part is just a vulnerable account of what it's like to live with an eating disorder, not have a lot of self-worth, and live with all the body image mess, how I came out of it and how I live now. So I didn't want to share, but it was pulled out of me, and I'm so glad that she did that.
I have a similar story. The first 3 years I started my business, the first 3 years I started Bella Foodie, I talked about how, wellness and food and how it helped me, but I never told my story or the why. I never told anyone I had MS. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to share it with the world I was sick, because when I went to college for business, they tell you don't tell anyone. You won't get hired if you tell anyone you're sick. But I got some help with marketing and things, and they're like, no, you need to share and do interviews about this. Now the whole world knows I have interviews and share about that, but it kind of feels better that you're sharing and telling people your story, right?
You're lighter. Like once you drop the shame of whatever it is that you're holding on to, and it may not be something that's even happening anymore. Like for me, when I wrote my book, I hadn't done the behaviors of like bulimia and anorexia maybe in 10 years, but I never told anyone. So I was still carrying that. So for anyone that's listening right now, what is the thing? Like, what is that thing? It doesn't matter if it's not happening anymore. I'll give you a hint. It's whatever you're thinking of right now. If you have not addressed that, write it down. Tell a friend. You don't have to write a book. You don't have to do press about it, but you have to release it and release the shame of it. And then it's like, and I'm sure you can attest to this, it's like the rest of your life just kind of opens up, and your purpose. And it's being like shadowed when you haven't let go of the shame of something. Once you do, it's like I talk about it so casually now. Like I'll say on my show, when I was bulimic, and you can see guests like be like, oh, but it's lost its power. Like once you just release it, then the rest of your life opens up. You can find your purpose. And a lot of times your purpose is coming out of what you've been through. There's somebody else still in that mess. And when you say it, it makes you just somebody that you can relate to. I get so many DMs. It's like, you're the first person I've ever told. That's where you connect. That thing that you're hiding, that's actually your superpower. And if you haven't told anyone, you're still carrying the shame of it, regardless if it's even happening anymore. You will be lighter, release the shame, write it down, just get it off of you, and then just watch the rest of your life and like exactly what you're supposed to do kind of align.
It's just so weird that I feel like even not just having something you're ashamed of, or like having an eating disorder or a chronic illness or anything, I feel like as women, we carry so much shame around everything. Like the media, everything keeps telling us that there's something wrong with us. Like the other day I went to the doctors, they weigh you every time you go to the doctors for anything. I hurt my back. That's why I went to the doctors, just to make sure I didn't do anything serious. I got weighed. And I am totally fine. And then I'm like, I don't want to get weighed. I see the number on the scale, and something in my brain is like, oh my God, something is wrong. But I'm also getting weighed in winter clothes and shoes and things. And you're like, that's not your real weight.
Yeah. You can opt out of that now, because I talk a lot in the body image space. And if that's going to ruin your day, or weigh yourself backwards so you don't look at it. Like for most of my life, a number on a scale like dictated what kind of day I was having. If it was up, it was an awful day. If it was down, I was like, nothing could bring me down. Nobody knows that number. So like, why? Don't even look at it. Like I would hold shame. No one else knows it. But if it's going to ruin your day, don't look at it. And another thing about shame, like right now I have 2 kids. And I'm not even saying like I feel shame like from other people. Like I have this almost guilt, maybe not so much shame of like, you're a mom, so why are you like working on your brand, or why are you traveling to speak, and you should be at home with your kids? Like I have shame about not being a good enough mom. Like it's never going to stop. We need to give ourselves grace. And I feel like you give everybody else grace, but you're just like really hard on yourself. So it's like, why would I assume that people are like, she should be home with their kids? It's not like when I see somebody else going speaking, I'm like, well, where are her kids? I'm not thinking about that with them. So why do I assume that people are shaming me? It's like we're harder on ourselves than anyone else is going to be on you.
That saying that you should not talk to yourself the way like you would a friend. Like, you should be talking to yourself the way you're talking to your friends. Because, like, what I say in my head, I probably would not say to a friend. But, like, in your brain, we're always so much harder on ourselves than, like you said,
Right.
about being a mom, about, like, I have a chronic illness, I canceled on something, and then I feel guilty. Like, I feel this weird guilt of, like, if I am not there, what am I missing? Are they going to invite me again? It's like, I'm missing something for work. Like, are they going to hire me again? Like, it's this cycle in your brain.
But if
And
somebody canceled on you for a chronic illness, would you understand?
of
Absolutely. So
course,
like, why are you thinking that they wouldn't for you? And when you said if you wouldn't say it to a friend, what I typically say is if you wouldn't say it to your daughter, stop saying it to yourself. Or like if you're not a mom, your younger self.
mm-hmm.
I have a picture of myself when I was in first grade, and it's in my closet, so I see it every day. And I think I saw like Kylie Jenner was talking about it on the radio. She's like, I have a picture of myself when I was younger. And every time like you're making a decision or you're being hard on yourself, it's like, would you say it to that little girl? Like, think about what you would want her to feel about herself, or what she would accept. And just thinking about your daughter or your younger self, you won't be so hard on yourself. Like, that's you. So, anytime I'm hard on myself, I look at that picture or I look at my daughter, I'm like, would I say that to her? Stop saying it to you, because you're the model of what she sees and how a woman should be. And if you wouldn't want that for her, then you have to stop saying it to yourself.
To me, what I see when I see moms that work in, are modeling behaviors for their kids, like, you're showing your daughter you can do what you want to be and how you want to be it. And I mean, from what I know of you, you are very present with your kids as much as you possibly can. And the reality is we all have to work in some way. Like, that's just the reality of life. People have to work, and it doesn't necessarily mean we will be there for every single thing in life, but you be there when you can. And if you're present, life is good. And we don't fault men for this. We don't fault other people for this. So why are we going to fault ourselves?
There's no like word that's working dad. No one says, well, I'm a working dad. There's only a working mom. Like, you have to like make sure you're saying, well, I'm a working mom. No, like, I will be completely honest with you. I am in a very lucky position where I don't have to work. My situation with my husband, played in the NFL, and we're set up. So I do have that noise. It's like, you don't have to do this. But then like another part of me is like, yes, you do. Like, I feel such a calling to help support, especially teenage girls and other moms that are feeling less fulfilled, because I finally just found fulfillment. And I'm so like lit up now that I want every woman to feel this. So that is my calling. And I don't want to do it at the cost of my kids, but it's like not like leaving them in a ditch to go speak somewhere. Like, they're at home with their dad. So like, why am I like, mommy, I'll be right back? Like, and you're right. When I am with them, I appreciate you noticing that. Like, I am locked in, but I still have the guilt. It's like, I'm like, when are you going to be back? Like, how many sleeps? And I'm like, oh, should I just, like, I am responsible for her and I want to be here with her. And I have this calling to be there for other women. And it's a lot. And women are hard on themselves, but all you can do is just be where your feet are and give 100% there. Cause the worst thing you can do is like, I'm off speaking and I'm just thinking about my daughter, or I do have time with my daughter and I'm like going over something that I'm going to talk about the next day. Like, as long as you're just 100% present in that moment, that's the best that you can do.
You give what you can give that day. And sometimes, I'm not feeling well. So my 100% is not the same 100% it was the next day. But the thing is,
Yeah.
as long as you're trying to give 110% or 100% to whatever it is you're doing and focus on what you can, that's your best for that day. Whether it to be a mom or be a podcast host or speaker, or me as a personal chef and occasional speaker now. And that's what it is. You all know that if it wasn't for Erin, I probably never would have gotten up and spoke in front of people at all. And I can't believe I'm speaking at a conference this spring, because I still don't like being in front of people.
You would never know. And first of all, this spring, you're a seasoned speaker now because you've already done it. You know that I get nervous and like kind of get in my head before I speak. And I've been doing it for a while now. Like, everyone feels that way. Like, I would never even have known you were nervous. You were a wonderful speaker. This is what you're supposed to be doing.
Oh,
and if I had anything to do with you getting up and actually trying it, you just need to know anyone that's speaking. It doesn't matter how confident they look. They're battling imposter syndrome. It's like somebody was on my show saying like, I feel the same way. It's just the bravery about it is stepping into it and doing it anyway. The person up there feels just as nervous as you do, but it's just stepping into that anyway. It's not that they're more confident about it. They just do it anyway. So just knowing that anyone's that's on a stage is feeling a little bit of imposter syndrome, a little bit nervous, but you just keep doing it, and it's not ever going to go away. It's just going to get a little bit easier the more, you get up there. And I'm so excited to hear that you're doing it again.
Yeah, I'm speaking on a panel, so I'm speaking with other people, but it's going to be it's a nice women's conference. There's a lot of speakers, so it should be a really interesting day for all of us, and I'm excited to do it. It's really interesting, though, that you say that, because, I think the difference is that when we think people are more confident than others, I think they just project more confidence than some of us do. When it comes to that, they're better at hiding their insecurities.
It's honestly, fake it till you make it. Like, that is truly, I faked confidence the first time I spoke. I'm like, it's almost like you're an actress. Like, I'm playing the role of confident speaker girl. And I did that. And then it's like, the more you do it, you do become confident. But it's like at the beginning, you just project confidence, whether you're feeling confident or not. Like, fake it till you make it is a thing.
Yeah. I think at some point, I've only met a few people that are truly confident in everything they do. But I think it's everybody's feeling. Like, we're just not there. Like, everybody has a bit of, is this the right decision? Am I doing the right thing? And I find women question more of what they do. Guys do it. It doesn't work. They just move on. We do something and then we're over analyzing something to death, hoping like, what did we do wrong? How do we fix this? What do we do? And it's so exhausting sometimes.
Guys suck. It's just easier for them. Totally. Yes. And you're in your own head. Like, everyone is dealing with the same thing. I will say, I can say now I do feel confident in all areas, but I'm 42. And when I was 36, I didn't have it. I didn't have the confidence. I feel like women step into who they are right around 40, and you just accept yourself as you are. Like, I was always comparing. I had to be perfect. I tried, especially like in the social media world, I tried to do it just like all the other influential mom accounts. I started out in the mom blogging space, and I would see like a mom account that had 1 million followers, and her grid was all the same, like color palette and everything. I thought that's how you do it. So she's successful, so I got to do it like her. When you just embrace just being your authentic self and stop trying to be like someone else, I am going to say the wrong thing, or I'm going to like mess up, but it's like, just embrace exactly who you are and how you do it. And I know it's easier said than done. And I'm just stepping into this. Like, at about 40, I just felt comfortable. And the more I talk to on my show, they're like, yeah, right about 40, you just kind of accept who you are. And I'm not going to say I don't compare, but it's just a self-acceptance that like, this is who I am. And this is fine the way that I am. You don't have to be like anybody else. And doing it like someone else, that's what made them successful, because how they do it. You can't copy. It's just inauthentic. You are yourself. You can see when someone's not being authentic, and there's nothing wrong with exactly who you are. And once you embrace that, there's like not a need to like, I don't know, compare or compete. And I think women find it right around 40.
I also think it also depends on the people around you as well, because, I've been to networking events or met women doing things out in the world or at vendor events and things, and you can always tell that one person that's trying to be nice to you, but you can feel like they're trying to compete with you, and you're being nice, but you're like, what did I ever do to you? I just met you.
Yeah, they're insecure. It even makes you feel sorry for them. You can't even get mad. It's like, if someone is projecting it's inauthenticity, is that a word? They're struggling within themselves. So it's like, just give that person grace. Like, you can tell when someone's being authentic. And if someone is trying to be overly not themselves, it's like they're not feeling secure. So you give them grace and you feel sorry. It's like the people that hate on social media. Like, someone that gives me like an awful comment, like, it stings, obviously, but I'm like, ow, like, that person to have the thought in your head to write something so mean, they have to be struggling. And as cliche as it sounds, like hurt people hurt people. So someone that's like trying too hard or being so awful and rude, like they are struggling, because no confident person that's okay with themselves would ever have that thought to write something so mean or bring someone else down. So that's how I kind of like look at someone that's kind of trying too hard, or someone's just being mean on social. It's like they're struggling with themselves, because no happy person would ever write something like that.
Well, let's look at the positive of social too. Like, we have positive messages, then some really strange messages occasionally. Have you ever gotten the really strange messages that you're like, I don't know what to do with this? And then the really nice, authentic ones that make you feel good.
And I had someone on my show that was like, you're talking about this one message that it was rude, but look at all the ones that, like you just said, that were positive and make you feel good. Like, it's like, it doesn't matter if you have 90 of those. If you look at the one and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
that's mean. Like, why don't you? And then she was like, why do you? I said, well, do you respond? And she's like, I used to like respond to the mean ones, but it's like, if you're going to respond to a mean comment, why didn't you respond to every lovely comment? Because it's basically giving the person that was rude your attention, and you're not giving attention to the people that were positive and kind to you. And I'm like, because I don't even see those. I just see the one. I'm like, that was really mean. Like, why did she, like, people always come from my body. Like, I'm muscular. Like, that's a dude. Or, and I'm like, well, I'm not, like, she's like, are you a dude? No. So why are you even letting it bother you? Because it was just really mean. But it's like, why are you
weird?
Look at all these nice ones. I see it. And it's like, that's fine. Why are you giving it more weight? And it's like, this person that maybe this person's like, that's a dude because I'm really muscular, and they're really trying to build muscle and they're having trouble. And now they see that I'm muscular, so they have to poke holes at it. And it makes you feel bad for the person, because no one else that's secure with themselves would write something like that. So back to like, it hurt people. And it just makes you look at comments, weird or rude or however you want to define them. It just gives that person grace. And I've had people like, I will respond and be like, I'm so glad that, like, somebody that's super rude, I usually go with like, I'll look at their first name and be like, I'm so glad that you're here, Jen, like a heart hands. And they'll like, either I've had people delete the initial comment because they're like, oh, she's like, because I'm like, I'm not going to get in there with you, but I see you and I'm happy that you're here. And then they soften a little bit. Maybe I shouldn't be responding, but like, that's how I typically handle it. But again, it's like, if you're going to respond to them, why didn't I tell every other person I'm glad that you're here, heart hands? So I need to take my own advice.
Yeah, that's true. I think that we're the worst at taking our own advice when it comes to things. I should take more of my own advice, but I don't. I fully admit that I am a flawed human being, and I am still learning and trying just like everybody else. I fully admit that. I admit that sometimes that with my cognitive issues, I forget words and I cover it up on TV, because then it's like, oh, I can't remember what I was going to say or things. So I just play it off, which is fine. But like, we all have our insecurities and weird things, and it's okay because we're all human.
That makes you more relatable and lovable, like saying that. Like somebody that's like, I never make a mistake. Like, why would you want to talk to that person? Like, sometimes I forget my words. I'm like, oh my God, you're so cute. Like, that's how you connect. And like I said, when I was trying to be like everybody else in these perfect pages, like now I'll just like show my toy room and be like, is this even real life? Like, show the real, authentic. And that is when you connect and find your community, because people want to be around and associate with or follow someone that they can see themselves in, and everybody can relate to that. When it's this perfect, you're like presenting this perfect persona, it's kind of just like, you're going to see the cracks at some point. It's not authentic.
So you changed the name of your podcast. I want to switch gears for a second to Erin P, which I still will get right eventually. Saying it, and
it's therapy, but it's my name in the middle, Erin P.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's cute. And, it's because, why did you feel that change was needed? I mean, I know that you started drinking less and you started focusing more on yourself, but what propelled all that?
So I still stand by squats and margaritas for changing my life. That balanced lifestyle, getting away from the restriction and the deprivation, and living life with squats and margaritas, like daily indulgences. Nothing's off limits, but be mindful. I used to just be like this cardio bunny, but then I started lifting more and my body changed. So I stand by squats and margaritas in the balance. What happened was in the pandemic, I lost the balance and it was a lot more margaritas, a lot less squats. I was still working out, but I was drinking way too much. I was drinking every day. I would find myself pouring cocktails earlier in the day and almost like appropriating this drunk mom narrative on TikTok. And it's like, it's COVID. We drink every day and quarantini. And now I look at it and I'm like, that's gross. But I was just trying to survive with a 4 and a 2-year-old in my defense. And when the playgrounds were closed and the schools were closed and the gyms were closed for like a year. So I stand by balance, but I got away from the balance and I needed to kind of just like keep myself in check and like authentically share that I was drinking too much. So I shared that I was working on my drinking. I started talking to sober moms. And when I would talk to, especially like celebrities in the public eye that I knew were sober, when they heard the name of my show, they're like squats and margaritas, like their publicist would be like, she's going to pass. And I kept finding myself being like, no, like contrary to what the name of my show is, I'm actually sober curious. And then I was like, I don't even really talk about fitness. What my show is a therapy session every week. Like I'm going to talk about what I'm going through, which for me right now is sobriety, co-parenting. I'm in the middle of a divorce. So like relationship stuff, body image, all the stuff you would talk to your therapist about. And I say, just without the bill. And because I'm not a therapist, I don't have letters next to my name. It's not therapy, it's therapy. I'm going to go there and I'm going to be vulnerable and authentic. And I'm going to bring on guests that are going to do the same. And we just kind of work through all of our issues in real time. And it's so much more in line with what I want this to be, for other people to feel seen and not alone and just have the vulnerable conversations. So squats and margaritas just, it didn't align anymore. I stand by it. It was my first book. Balance changed everything, but I am not living that life anymore. And therapy just seemed like a natural evolution of my brand.
How did it go? Like I listened to the episode I was telling you earlier about you talking about being sober for 30 days and trying to see what it was like because you overindulged for so long. And you talk about how hard it was for you. Why do you think that was?
The habit, like it's hard to break a habit. And I had the habit. I want to be like clear. I wasn't like drinking to excess every day, but I was drinking every day. I would have like a beer or a glass of wine or two every day. And it was just a habit. And I don't really binge drink. So that was already like off the table, but I did share a couple of instances in that particular episode where I had binge drank and hated myself the next day and why I don't binge drink now. So I was just authentic and vulnerable. And I think that is the first thing. It's like, I think people think when they look at alcohol or sobriety, it's like, if you're looking at it, then you may have a problem. And so some people won't look at it. Like they don't want to go there, or they know they're drinking too much, but like, you don't want to look at it or admit it. So I was like, I don't know what I'm going to be. I don't know if I'm going to be sober, but I'm just going to do 30 days and talk about how I got through it, which was a lot of Halo Top ice cream because I had to not have a beer at night. So I would have ice cream, have something to replace it. I found non-alcoholic IPAs, which really showed me that it was more like a pairing thing with meals. I felt deprived if I didn't have a beer with my meals. So now I don't even drink regular beer anymore. I found a non-alcoholic IPA that tastes just like a beer. So with my eating disorder past, I don't like feeling deprived or restricted. And now that I have non-alcoholic IPAs, I, am able to not feel deprived and not drink alcohol. So I shared all those like little tips that I thought could help someone else that's like looking at their drinking, and maybe you're not quite ready to put it out into the world that you're looking at it. So you can kind of listen to me and kind of find strength or support through that, or find little tips of how I started drinking less. But yeah, I wanted to just be vulnerable and authentic. And I think once you drop the shame of that big thing, which for me was like my eating disorders, it's kind of easy to be authentic about other things. Like, it's like once that was the big one. So now let me talk about my drinking. Like it didn't seem as like daunting because I've already got the big one off of me. So yeah. And I ultimately said, I know you listened to it, but I'm not sober, but
Mhm.
I want my relationship with alcohol to be like my relationship with birthday cake. It's fine. I don't have birthday cake every day, but once in a while, or if I'm out and there's cake, have birthday cake. Just don't have it with every meal every day. So it's not something that's off limits. And for me or anyone else that struggled with body image or disordered eating and restriction, if it's off limits for me, like I'm not drinking, all I want is wine. Like it makes me want it more. It puts it on a pedestal. It's more enticing. So if I say it's not off limits, then it's not as daunting for me. I can have it, but it's like birthday cake. Every once in a while, it's completely fine, but I'm not going to do it every day and with every meal.
I like that. I mean, it's everyone can be. I have friends that don't drink. It's fine. They just decide they don't like the taste of alcohol, or they just don't want to drink anymore, or they have all kinds of reasons. I have a couple of friends that just never liked the taste of alcohol, which I don't really understand, but hey, let's go with it. Everyone's different. But
Lucky
me,
them.
I haven't had alcohol in almost a year and a half because medically I'm not allowed anymore, at least for now. And I'm like sitting there going, so now when I go out, I'm like, if you ever realize you're the sober one when your friends are like having fun and then you realize this is not as fun as it used to be.
Well, the next morning, you're having fun and they are not. So you have to think about that. Like, let's look at alcohol for what it is poison. And when
Yeah.
you look at that, if someone starts slurring their words or something, it's because you've poisoned yourself. Like you poisoned your body. And like that kind of reframe, and like you wake up in the morning and your head is pounding or you feel nauseous, like your body is trying to deal with the poison that you put in it. So I look at it now, like I love like a great glass of wine with a meal if I'm out, but like binge drinking, like drink after drink, you're poisoning your body. And so, yes, I stopped binge drinking a while ago. Like I'd have a beer at a bar and I would always notice because the bill would come and everybody like throw in a card. And I'm like, I had one beer, you had 7 beers. Like I would notice that I don't binge drink. And then the next morning, like I'm good. I had a great time. I went out. I didn't, you think you're not having fun. The next day there's nothing better than waking up completely clear. And especially when you're away with people that are not in that same state and they're just like, oh my God. And it's like, you did it to yourself. Like when you look at alcohol for what it is, which is poison, you're poisoning your system and your body's trying to fight to get it out. It's just like that reframe. There's a book called This Naked Mind by Annie Grace. And I actually interviewed her. And that was another one. It's squats and margaritas. And I was like, but I'm trying to not drink. Like, please do it. And I can't believe she did a podcast called Squats and Margaritas because this was years ago. But I was like, I want you to check me and tell me if I'm not saying the right thing. And she's like, alcohol is addictive. Anybody that is having trouble stopping, it's because alcohol is doing what it's supposed to do. And your body is addicted to it. And so that 30-day experiment, I wasn't like going through withdrawals. I don't feel like a physical addiction to it, but like I was addicted to the habit of like, I look forward to my glass of wine at night or my beer with meals and just kicking that. That's what was so hard. So I had to find something to like kind of replace it. And I think just thinking of alcohol for what it is, if you're anyone listening to this that's struggling it, and any drink that's after like one drink, fine, drinking in moderation. I think it's 1 drink a day for women. That is like allowed, it's moderation. But anything after that, it's a poison and you're poisoning your body and you're going to hate yourself in the morning. That kind of reframe about it, just thinking of how you'll feel the next morning and how great you'll feel to wake up clear, got me through the 30 days and continues to keep me on this sober, curious journey.
I don't know about you, but what I've noticed over the last year and a half is that like when I go to restaurants or out with friends, there are a lot of mocktails on restaurant menus. And like I was in Boston a few weeks ago and I have to tell you that like the place we went, it was a very well balanced, complicated cocktail that I got that was a mocktail. And it was so exciting to have something that just wasn't like sparkling water or something like that. It was something different. And it's really cool that they're actually putting in the time and effort to make something that tastes good, looks good, and feels good for people that don't drink. So, if I go out and I see something cool like that, like it makes me feel good too.
Totally. And you feel a part of things because you're holding a cocktail, this beautiful cocktail in your hand. And I've noticed too, a lot of non-alcoholic, there's at least one non-alcoholic beer last few times that I went out. And now that I'm on my non-alcoholic beer kick, like I will just get that and I don't feel deprived. And like they pour it in a glass. Everybody has a beer. Mine's non-alcoholic, but it's not like, oh, you're not drinking, because I have my beer. It tastes like a beer. I don't feel deprived. But before, like I feel like last year I never saw non-alcoholic beer on a menu. Or maybe I wasn't looking for it because the only time I did look for it was when I was pregnant. Now I can tell you there are non-alcoholic beers on the menu and I don't feel deprived. I get the taste of it with my meals, and then I feel like I've got a beer like everybody else. So it's not like a thing. Because I feel like too, if you're the first one to kind of embark on any kind of journey, a sober journey, and there people are not used to that, or they're still drinking, you're going to get a little bit of pushback. It's kind of like, well, why not? Like, were you pregnant?
I got a lot
I'm not
of
pregnant.
questions why I wasn't drinking,
Yeah.
because people started noticing that I wasn't drinking.
Yeah, because it makes them kind of question themselves. Like, you're not drinking, or if you say like, I just want to be healthier, then it's like they look at themselves like, what, should I be healthier? It makes them kind of question. So it's uncomfortable. I get it. So just be like, it helps me if I order, like no one's listening while I'm ordering. They bring me a beer. It looks like I have a beer. There's no conversation to be had. And it's not, because it's kind of for anybody, or it's like somebody's going on a diet. Maybe there was somebody that is uncomfortable with their weight. It's like, should I go on a diet? Like it makes whatever you're have in your head, if somebody else is making a lifestyle change, it kind of makes you look at yourself. And like I said earlier, I think a lot of women, they don't want to look at it because they know it's maybe an issue with drinking, but it's like, we don't want to say it out loud, or you don't want to stop. And if you say it, for me, it was almost like accountability. Like I said, I'm not drinking for 30 days. Like I'm putting it out there, so I'm not going to do it. And it's making me think too, I had Jackie Goldschneider from Real Housewives of New Jersey on my show talking about her anorexia. And I was like, you admitted your anorexia, went to treatment on the biggest platform on Bravo. And she's like, I had to, because then I had to heal. Like once you put it out there, like the whole world was holding her accountable. So once I said like, I'm not drinking, then it gives you this other level of accountability. You don't have to go on TV, but it's kind of like what she was saying. I had to say it so that people would almost like hold her accountable and like make it a real thing. And once you say it, it's something that you'll stick to. If you don't say it, yes, like you can cheat. You can be like, do whatever. I mean, you could cheat anyway. I could be drinking while I'm doing my 30-day episode, but it holds yourself to a higher like obligation to something once you say it out loud and make it known publicly.
I feel like a lot of things lose their power if you write it down or talk about it or things, only because seeing something in writing for yourself or telling someone, you start to realize whatever it is that you're need to do, or a goal that you want to make, or whether it's like work or personal or something that's been bothering you. It's like getting it out of your head, because if it lives in your head, then it's taking up space for some reason or another. And I find it doesn't have to make sense, whatever you write down. Like it doesn't have to be perfect grammar. It doesn't have to make sense, but as long as you just get it out of your head. It's kind of like when I make a list. I get it out of my head. That space is gone. I can look at that list when I need to go do something, and it's not living in my head, taking up space.
It gets it off you. Yes, that's a great analogy, because at night I'm like doing my grocery list, like what time I like pick up the kids, like if there's a doctor's appointment. If I just put it in my notes, it's out. So it's like the same thing. Anything that you're carrying, it will be lighter. Like you're carrying it, write it. And it sounds like write it. It just, I felt lighter instantly when I wrote. I was bulimic, I was anorexic. I didn't send it back to my writing coach yet, but it was like, it finally was off. And you may not realize you're even still carrying something, because you're like, well, it didn't happen anymore. I'm not doing that anymore. But if you never acknowledged it to the universe and just got it off of you, it's still on you. You're still carrying it.
I just feel like even the simplest things sometimes are helpful. Like you're talking about being in bed with your lists and things. I find that if I spend like 5 minutes like after dinner or something to look at my schedule, my list I need for the day. I mean, yeah, sometimes stuff pops in my head and I have to write it down at like 10 o'clock. But if you spend like 5 minutes looking at what your day looks like the next day, or 10 minutes looking at organizing your schedule for the next day and things, then you can enjoy your evening. You can read or watch Netflix or spend time with your family or whatever it is you like to do at night, go to the gym. But the point is that you get your time without worrying.
Yes, because when you're watching Netflix, you would be thinking about the list. Like you can't really veg out because you're until it's out, like off of you and written down. Or like I always write everything for my day, and if something didn't get crossed off, it's going to bother me. I really like to cross everything off. I have to move it to the next day, so I get to cross it off the next day. But moving it to the next day means like it's all okay. Like I know that I have it for tomorrow. It's not in my head anymore. I just have to I have to see it. I like to cross it off. And if you're not, yeah, things are going to pop into your head, and that's what you're going to be focusing on when it should be a time that you are working out or you are with your kids. Get it off of you, write it down, dump it in the notes section of your phone.
I find, sometimes life just gets in the way and your brain takes over, and we don't want that.
Nobody wants that.
Our life. All right. Erin, hold that thought. We'll be right back with Erin, and we're going to talk about what it's like to be a parent and co-parent and go through divorce. So hang in there. We'll be right back.
I'm Gary.
And I'm Gina.
And we're the hosts on Fire and Light Talk. So join us every Thursday, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. Positive vibrations right here on E360 TV.
See, sometimes we love our new program, but occasionally it has little glitches that we're still working out. We all know I'm not the tech person, but I'm working on it. So we are back with Erin, and Erin was talking to us earlier about being a mom and how she started in the mom space. But now you have a new mom challenge, co-parenting, because you're getting divorced. What's that like, and how have you decided, is this like an ever-evolving situation at the moment?
What's it like? We are co-parenting rock stars. Like if I knew how good this was going to go, I probably would have filed for divorce earlier. I also enjoy my husband. I don't know. We're not divorced. It's very close to being finalized, but my ex, I enjoy him very much in this capacity as co-parents. We're not a match anymore. Living together was not great. It was a toxic environment for our kids. But now that we have taken that off the table and we are in two healthy, non-toxic homes, I very much enjoy him. He's a part of my life. I talk to him every day. I'm trying to rewrite the rules of divorce. You don't have to hate the person. I love him. I just can't live with him. And when I said that to him, he said, I feel you. Like we're on the same, we're just not aligned. I think when we've been together 18 years. So initially he was in his career. Yeah. And I didn't have much going on. Now I've kind of stepped into purpose, and it's just not a match. Like it's hard to justify what I'm doing right now to him, and not being just home with the kids. And it was just itchy. It was making us resent each other. And like I said, I probably stayed a year or so too long. I will share with you that there was a time where I was admittedly screaming at him in our house, about 9 months ago. My kids were in the basement, and they came upstairs with a play kitchen dinner from their little kitchen. And they're like, Mommy, we made you this calm down dinner because you were yelling at Daddy. And I was like, I was like, oh, we were just talking. And oh my gosh, no, thank you so much. And I went up to him and I was like, they feel it. You need to go. Like they are in a toxic situation, and now they are thriving. And I will say, I want to make it clear, I'm not a proponent of divorce. I'm not just saying, yeah, like you'll get along better. It was a decision that took me a while to come to. But I will tell you, if you are considering it and you are just staying for the kids, and that's the reason you're not pulling the trigger, you're not doing them a favor. They feel it. My kids now are thriving. We have a great relationship. They see a mom and dad that get along because we're not living together. And we told them together. We went out to lunch and we were like, Mommy and Daddy want to be the best mommy and daddy that we can be. So we are still a family. We're always going to be a family. We're going to have 2 houses. And I'm just kind of like waiting for the reaction. And they were like, what? Like 2 houses? Thank you. And we were like, okay. like, we're going to Target after this and we're going to pick out toothbrushes for daddy and toys for daddy and sheets. And they were like, yeah, we're all pushing the cart together. We did it as a team. I went over to his place and kind of put some of their favorite things from here over there. And I'm like, and this is Amaya's room. And we open the door and they're like, wow, like excited. And if I knew they were going to take it like that, it would have been something I would have done earlier. Like, there was a year of toxicity because in my mind, I was like, it doesn't matter how much we're fighting or how upset I feel. I have to keep the family together for the kids. You're not doing them a favor. When I got that calm down dinner, I was like, they're feeling how toxic it is. And they're thriving now. We have never gotten along better. It's like we were meant to be co-parents. Obviously, we were meant to marry and bring these two kids into the world. But I enjoy him, like, to the point where actually it's confusing because I'm like, we'll get off the phone. And I'm like, oh, maybe we can make it work. Like, because we're getting along so great. But it's because we are in two separate spaces. Like, it's March Madness right now. We're recording this. I'm like, I want to go watch a game with him because he's still a person that I enjoy being with. I don't want to live with him and he doesn't want to live with me. But it's almost like I got done with therapy before I jumped on this. And I'm like, is it weird? Like, I could date him. And I'm like thinking my therapist is going to be like, what are you talking about? She's like, that makes sense. Like, we can't live together. We're not aligned on like everything that you would need for a marriage. But as a person, I love who he is. I have fun with him. We've been together for 18 years and I want to still see him and be in his life and be the person that he calls and works through things. So it's not a typical divorce. And I have sadly like 3 friends right now that are going through divorces. When I hear them talk, they're like, can you believe this? And this guy did. And I'm like, I love Marcus. And they're just kind of like, what? You don't have to hate the person. Like, you can make a decision that's best for your family and best for both of you and still have them in your life. And I don't know if that's the right answer or if it's going to blur the lines and we're never going to be able to find other relationships. But for now, I enjoy him very much in this capacity. And my kids are thriving and I know it was the right decision, even though I struggled so much with making that decision.
Well, I would imagine a lot of people struggle with making that decision. I mean, after a long time and having families, and I don't think it's a decision that people would come to lightly in any situation, unless it's a very serious situation where somebody's in danger. I don't think anybody would I think everybody takes time.
That sounds bad to say it's easier. Obviously, I would not wish that on anyone. But if there was like a domestic assault situation, if there was cheating, there was like a thing, be like, see, bam, burst. This is so clear. But when there's not something like that, there wasn't infidelity, there wasn't abuse. It's almost like you have to be like, is this right? That in those situations, you're like, absolutely, this divorce is right. But it's like, when it's not something like that, you just carry a lot of the blame of like, am I doing the right thing? Like, is this, maybe we work it out because it wasn't like this big thing, but I don't know. It's like, life is so short. You don't want to, my therapist says it's square peg, round hole. Like, it just doesn't fit. Like, you can't, and I would try and like, I'm like, but the kids, but seeing how happy they are now, I know it was the right decision. And if you're getting a divorce, it's like, when people hear it, they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, thank you. But because you just assume it's bad, but it's like, you didn't get a divorce because you were happy. So I'm not expecting people to say congratulations on your divorce, but I'm sorry is the first thing. And I'm like, we're good. Or my sisters are calling. They're like, oh, what are you doing? I was like, I just talked to Marcus. I was on the phone with Marcus and they're like, you talk? And I'm like, we talk every day. Like, I still want him in my life, but marriage is not the path anymore. And it's okay. And I want people to find this. Like, you don't have to like force and never see him again. Obviously, we're together for 18 years, no matter what, because of these kids. But I still want him in my life, not just as a co-parent. Like, he's my friend. He makes me laugh. Like I said, I want to go watch March Madness games with him. I don't want to watch with anybody else, but I want him to go to his house after that. We can't live together. But I'll date him. Like, I still love the person that he is. And it's 18 years of history. We met when I was 24. And I don't want him to not be in my life.
Well, I mean, you're never going to get rid of them. You have children. But
it could be very much, we're making it, I know girls that are co-parenting right now as they're separated, and it's like the drop off is at the driveway and he's not, I don't want him to feel too comfortable in my home. And I'm like, if they're the Super Bowl, he came over for the Super Bowl. Like, I want him to feel comfortable in my home. Then I want him to go to his home. And this works for us.
If it works for you,
Yeah.
who are other people to judge you for it? If your kids are happy and you're happy and he's happy and everybody's at peace with whatever they're doing, then if your therapist doesn't think it's unhealthy in some way, then God bless. Do whatever you need to do.
It's my friends that are like, you're never going to move on. Like, aren't you dating? Don't you want to meet? So if you're talking to Marcus every day, you're never going to meet someone. I'm like, that's not really on my radar right now. Like, and maybe obviously if he meets someone or I meet someone, I'm sure this is not going to be the same situation. For now, it's very recent. It's very new. And we're just kind of navigating it day to day. And I would feel like something was missing if he was just dropping off the kids or I was dropping off the kids. Like, I want to make sure he's good. He's still very important to me. He's the father of my kids. And this works for us for now.
I think we all judge each other a little too much on things. Like, your way may not be the right way for somebody else. My way may not be the right way for another person. But like, you put stuff out in the world that'll maybe help somebody. I share what I do because it might help somebody else. And maybe some tip I give helps somebody else. But we're never saying that this is the only way or we're right and you're wrong. So don't ever get that confused, okay? We just want to share stuff that hopefully helps you navigate different situations.
Yeah. And I almost want to like give another woman permission. Like, maybe she feels like she has to hate him. Like, I can't call him, he's my ex. You could still be friends with him. And it's like, you feel like divorce has to be separate. So maybe I'm giving someone permission to still be friends with their ex, or I don't date their ex if they want to, but you don't want to be married, but you still want to see this person. I want to give someone else permission to be like, here's what we're doing. Maybe this will work for you. I know the whole stigma, like divorce, and the people that I know that are going through it is like this, you hate them and I want a divorce. It doesn't have to be that way.
No. Before, we only have a few minutes left. Before we let you go, I would love you to share a little bit more about Blue Butterfly for everybody to hear about that.
I would love to. And I'm actually planning our first wellness retreat for this fall. Blue Butterfly is a foundation for teen girls that are struggling with body image and self-worth. It's something that I would have loved to have when I was going through my mess, and it didn't exist. So I created it. When I was really in the mess, I was super defensive. My mom would call me on it and I would just be like, I'm fine. I wouldn't talk to her about it. I didn't go to therapy or go to treatment because what I pictured was like a man with a clipboard, like, tell me about your anorexia. And I'd be like, you don't get it. But Blue Butterfly is a network of women who have been through the things. Anorexia, bulimia, body image struggles, anything that's making a girl feel, like alone and isolated, and you feel like you're the only one. Because when you're a teenager, nobody says it out loud. You have to project that you have it all together, but everyone's comparing and everyone's insecure about something. So it's a safe space for teen girls to come together and hear stories from women who have been through the things. I named it Blue Butterfly because there was an actual blue butterfly that landed on my doorstep and was coming for 2 weeks every single day, would not fly away. And I was like, God, universe, I see it. I'm not sure what to do with it. And then one day I was on the phone with my business coach and she's like, your nonprofit, we got to get it up and running. What do you want to call it? And in the moment I was like, Blue Butterfly, and it left. Like, the butterfly went away. And so now people question the name. That's where it came from. And we are planning our first wellness retreat in Atlanta in September.
Yay! Oh, I can't wait to see what you do with it. Erin, thank you so much for coming and sharing everything with us. Hopefully you will come again when the retreat is on and you can share more about that. As always, everybody tune in next week at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on E360 TV. We have a great guest. Meg Gerber is back, and we are going to be talking about her new bitters company. Stay tuned, everybody.